Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Paz, the rising VTuber and artist, and today we're going to be continuing a little bit of work on some index card art that we started. Excuse me. Okay. So, the reason that I'm straightening right now is because I have to lift a very heavy backpack that is full of several valuable things, most of them knowledge, and also textbooks, which are quite expensive. If you know, you know. But more importantly, it has my completed flashcard set. Well, no, it's not actually complete yet. It's actually a little bit ways off from being complete. It's got... I think I've got about 140 in there. It says 139, but like the actual number is probably just a little bit lower because I combined a couple of these. But yeah, as you can see, there is a... it's like almost like a thumb length. But yeah, I've got it in this weird kind of rubber band shibari because I am worried that they'll like flop out and spill all over the place. But I have 139 of these minimum to get through. Or actually, you know, 139 give or take a couple for ones that I'll have to add and ones that are combined. Yeah, I think we left off with like 7. And we did some good work on those. I think the last one we did was Jay here. And you can see here, like, for example, I've combined 8, 9, and 10 from the flashcard set. That's... I don't know if you've noticed, but that number is a lot low. That's a lot of them in one. Actually, no, that is rather easy to notice. Eagle-eyed viewers might notice. That always pissed me off a little bit because like the phrase like eagle-eyed viewers might notice always rubbed me the wrong way a little bit because either it was something that was so minuscule that you would need to be able to have like background context in like 3 different fields to get it because it was like this super thought out thing that the movie makers included as a fun little detail. And, like, it's always cool to notice those, because I imagine that the people who made the movie are very happy that somebody noticed the work that went into it. Also, look at what I got. Beautiful. This is the Pilot Kakuno. It is a fountain pen, which I bought for, like, I don't know, it was like $15 or something. But very cool little fountain pen. I did a little bit of practice sketching earlier today while I was at the library. I've been spending a lot of time at the library recently, and I've been having a ball. That place is awesome. Did you know that they have books in there? I kid, but every time I visit the thing about me is that I visit the library and I will go there and I will be like, "Yay, books!" And I'll like borrow a book and then I just won't read it. Like, I'll be thrilled by the conceit or, like, the potential knowledge inside of the book, and then I just won't read it. And that sucks, and I want to get better at it. And I have been getting better at it, a little bit. I'm trying to get even better at it, though. You know, little by little, we'll be getting there. Oh, yeah, what else? Okay, who else can we do? Because I have a couple of people who are kicking around in V's server. I don't know. I'd like to exhaust my knowledge of like indie VTubers before I head on to like corpo and VTubers. Although some of these people aren't really VTubers per se. Also, I do need to get like a photo reference or something. I've been looking through the Internet Archive for different references on like poses and ideas for like portraits and such, and they're having a few cool ones. Like there are some that are very useful, but the most interesting thing that I've noticed is that a lot of these are not actually like books, but they're more so like ISO files. I'm trying to think. Actually, you know what? I know that Jay has some OCs called the X Rangers. I'm gonna draw them. Let's see. But yeah, I've been looking through the Internet Archive, trying to find a few. Oh, this is a good pose, actually. But yeah, I've been looking through the Internet Archive, and they have a bunch of like .iso files, which are these old disk files, and they have just stuff from like the 1980s. Like, one of the things that I got my hands on was this picture ROM from Japan from like the 19 or not, probably not even the 90s anymore. Let me double check. Hang on. They actually like have the files dated to the year of release. Let's see, volume 3. Okay, properties. Oh wait, no, these are all created in 2025. So okay. Ah, snap. It didn't save the metadata. Okay, let me try another one. Like, let's say. Oh yeah, like for example, there was this CD-ROM of quote-unquote exotic poses, and some of these are in some pretty far-off weird places. But the oh hey Leah, how you doing? Okay, metadata for the file is November 24th, 1993. That's how old some of these photos are, and I think that rules. What you doing today? More index card art. I'm also very excited because I finally got myself a non-wiggle. So my old, hang on, I'm gonna shake the camera just very, very, very briefly. Okay, you see how it kind of like stabilizes after a couple of seconds. That's instead of like before where it kind of like wobbled around a lot more. I got myself a camera armature that is not like a noodle arm. I got like a noodle arm one a long time ago because I thought it would be very pun intended. Pun not intended. Pun kind of intended. I thought it'd be more flexible than a fixed armature, and I was right. Except it also was like just terrible to set up. It was very difficult to set up consistently. So now I have a fixed armature, and it's much nicer, and it's not a pain in the ass to set up. It's just knobs. It's all knobs. But yeah, it's more poses, and I don't know. I'm kind of on a pose drawing kick. I'm on a gesture drawing kick a little bit because I am having a lot of fun just drawing these simple poses. Okay, so then the hand is gonna be kind of around here. But yeah, love the library. I've also started drawing. I think having access to the library and going to the library more often has just kind of given me a sort of. It sort of awakened my destructive instincts as a digital hoarder. Yeah, just making a normal chair should be fine since this is a pretty modern setting. I wanted to ask about that. What made you go? Honestly, just the fact that I needed to get out of the house. Like, I started to feel a little bit suffocated by just being in front of my computer all day, so I decided to be in front of the desk all day at the library instead. And let me tell you, it is actually kind of badass. I don't know, a big part of what I missed of, like, going outside more often is the fact that you just get to meet, like, God's own prototypes sometimes. Like the other day, I was like waiting for my meal at like this Indian restaurant, right? And there was this guy who was also making his order, right? He went after me, so I didn't really mind. And he kept talking about different Indian dishes that he'd eaten, none of which were in the menu. Like he kept like being like, "Oh yeah, I see you don't have I see you don't have paneer. Do you? I love paneer. I ate it one time and it was really good. And the cashier just had to be like, "That's nice, sir," because like, what was she supposed to do? God. And like, I don't know. There's something. I don't like. Obviously, I'm glad I'm not the one who has to deal with them. But there's something oddly refreshing about having like people who are completely unaware or like completely lack self-awareness and just seeing them out and about. I don't know. They have like a sort of power to them. What's on the docket for today? I'm drawing the X-Rangers right now. They're not technically VTubers, but I am trying to make this like mostly VTuber-centric, but they are VTuber adjacent though. Wait, is this the leg that was on top? Or no, this is the one that's on the bottom. So wait, where do I put the belt? Oh, it's over here. That reminds me, I went to go pick up my mail, but I had to go through the teller to pick it up, and it was so packed. God. I've had that experience before. One time we were trying to mail my brother something, and it did not go smoothly. Jay needs to be Dukes one day just to fuck with us. God, that's gonna be it. One of these like on one of these like monthly streams that she has, she's just gonna show up as Dukes, and we're gonna be like, wait, what the fuck? Okay, let's start with the hair. But yeah, I'm obsessed with how fine the lines are with the fountain pen. There was a guy in front of me that was a bit sweaty and pissed off at a lady behind me with 2 kids, and the reason why it was taking so long was because a guy was arguing with the manager about his missing mail. That sounds hellish. God. You know, obviously all the respect in the world to our postal workers, but sometimes it's because like people don't have to mail out as much stuff. He was so angry because he kept getting spam mail. He would get notifications for mail he never received and wanted to know exactly how the mail system works. What is this guy? On the one hand, like I have to kind of respect the curiosity that he has because like I mean, you shouldn't get angry at that, right? Like, I think, like maybe if it wasn't so packed, you would try to ask those questions. I'd be interested in learning more of the answers about that myself. But yeah, definitely, I wanted to kill him. God, yeah, no, I was gonna say like maybe on a day that wasn't so packed, or like if it was just like a Q&A session or something, right? Like like if he went to like PostCon or whatever and ask the questions there, I think then that would be... Actually, would it be a good idea to ask that sort of question at PostCon? I feel like that would be... Hang on, I'm gonna raise my desk just a little bit. Oh, wait, that's actually so cool. Hang on. Oh, that's so cool, actually. They won't even let me write the address on my ready box at the till, and they let him stand there and yell. God. Do you think that like maybe that's kind of like their version of a smoke break? You know, they have some dude who's angry and confused about the mail, and they just let him yap there for a few seconds while they tune out. Yeah, I got a standing desk. I've had this standing desk for like a few years. Like I learned that my workplace has like this deal with the standing desk place where the standing desk place will give you a discount if you order through like a partner site with my workplace. And I was like, all right, if I'm gonna get like if it's gonna be like subsidized like that, then hell yeah, I'm gonna treat myself a little bit. It is absolutely been a really good investment. I really enjoyed it. Now you need that treadmill underneath and become hamster. I have actually considered getting a treadmill a couple of times, but the thing is that like I feel like I would just like have it underneath. I don't know, it just feels like it'll be uncomfortable with my current chair setup. Like I like being able to go really far in on my desk with my chair, and having the hamster treadmill would be a little bit difficult with that. I'll stick to kettlebell swings. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you started going out more. I'm glad too, honestly. I was missing it from like the from my diet as not in my not in my diet as in like the nutritional sense, but in my diet as like a human being. It's very nice too. The weather's finally started getting warmer too. And so I'm basically going there without a jacket or anything. It really is nice. It also is a little bit nostalgic because I haven't connected to the library's Wi-Fi yet. So I'm basically just going there and studying without any Wi-Fi. And it's kind of awesome because it reminds me a lot of like when I was a teenager. I used to go to the basement of our house very, very frequently, and I would just study there. And the basement did not have Wi-Fi. It was this very, because it was underground, it was very cool in there. No more Pabst Popsicle, that's right. It's the best. It's genuinely the greatest. Hmm. Something about the shoulders off, but I can't correct it just right away. Index card art is so fun for refining and experimenting with art style. Hey, Kaiju. It is. I'm also combining it a little bit with like gesture drawings, and it's been a blast. Okay, then over here. Okay, so the knee is kind of just posed up over here. Oh yeah, that reminds me. While I was at the library, I did check out another book. So I've checked out 3 books. I checked out one about famous portraits, which is mostly about the history behind those portraits. I was hoping it was be more about like just drawing portraits, but you know, I could probably learn a thing or two about the subject regardless. And the other one that I picked up is called Art Before Breakfast, and it's this guy that's basically kind of evangelizing a just trying out art in very small increments, and it's a very interesting book. I think if I had never done art before, if there was a universe where I had not ever started drawing and I picked up that book, I think that book would have been like the best entry for me personally to try and start learning how to draw. because it's a very approachable book, and it starts with a lot of fundamentals, which I think is good for like someone like me who enjoys just dicking around and learning the basics of things at the same time. Like, for example, in that book, it tells you about contouring and the basics of negative space, the basics of measurement, which I'm trying to use now for a couple of things. It's very fascinating stuff. Hmm. Genuinely, art cell formed from index card art in October 2020. After I couldn't figure out my Sentai designs recently, I've been experimenting on index cards, and it's so rewarding. I don't tap in because the state of my basics are odd. Oh, yeah, I also sympathize with that. I am definitely the kind of person who learned to draw by going like, "Wow, drawings are so cool" as a kid, and then like never ever stopping drawing. Like, I had like maybe one thing that you could consider a period of time where I was like being properly trained in how to draw, and that's it. So yeah, I am also very much lacking in terms of fundamentals. I think that's a very common story nowadays, because I feel like art has become much more accessible as a thing, because people are you no longer need to like go to a specialized school for art. Like if you type in right now into Google, like, I want to draw Sonic the Hedgehog, there will be like 50 people who will be like, I can tell you how to draw Sonic the Hedgehog my way. And you'll be like, fuck yeah, 50 ways to draw Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's great. But it also means that I feel like a lot of people, myself included, who went into art as a hobby, particularly because they love characters and drawing characters, have a sort of lack of, like, I don't even know what I don't know is kind of like where I'm at. There we go. All right, let me use my desk powers to get a close up of that. I don't know how well that's working. I think that's working pretty well, honestly. Hang on, let me... I am at, like... Okay, maybe it needs to be a little bit higher. My desk is currently at, like, chin height to me. You only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. I feel that. God. I do think that the fountain pen will probably dry a little bit faster as well. Oop. That's the actual knowledge side. You're not supposed to see that. I don't know if the information that on the flashcards that I copied down is like of vital importance to anybody, but it's... I'm gonna err on the side of caution. Pabs IRL is same as Chibi size. I'm not standing at my standing desk. I am sitting on a chair. I'm tall. I'm just messing with you. I'm like 3 apples tall, honestly. I don't know, the feeling that I'm not actually very tall has kind of worsened the more I lived in Canada. I used to live in a country where I was like taller than most of the people around me, even as a teenager. Like in the human form, right? If I stop hunching my back and I stand up straight in human form, I am like 170 centimeters. Like, I'm 5'9" or something like that, approaching that angle. You know, may with heels on, may wearing some platforms, maybe with a little booster. But you would not be able to tell the difference from like a natural medium tall person and me. And going from there to Canada, where like the average schoolboy is like Jotaro Kujo sized, is quite the shock. It's a relative thing. I'm the shortest member of my family, and I went to a convention and towered the fuck over all of my friends. It is very funny to... Your family sounds lovely. I do think it is very funny that like you went to you were born into a lineage of natural born hoopers. 6'1"? Kaiju, the Lakers need you. What are you doing in my Twitch chat? Come on, the Lakers need you. What bow should I draw for Tear? I'm struggling now because I have like 5 different photo books of random people with random poses. And not all of them are suitable for the occasion. Oh, actually, this one's good. I did play volleyball in elementary and middle school, but my younger sister was the one who played b-ball. Nice. I feel like volleyball is a sport that helps you grow as a person. I don't know. Like every basketball player I've talked to feels like they were like the court either made or broke them. But every volleyball player I've talked to seems like a very chill person. Maybe this ball is life shit is onto something. I didn't do a whole lot of sports. I was in the track and field club because I had to take at least one sport club in high school, I think? Middle school, high school. And I wasn't very good at that. I still got an award for like best growth, which is a very flattering way of saying that I definitely worked my ass off. That's being very cynical. I'm sure they liked me well enough in the club. Volleyball was absolutely something I clung to in some of the worst years of my life. Yeah, great at serving. So now you serve in several ways. I don't know. I want to see like what the psychological effect is of participating in particular sport activities. Like, I don't know, would the fact that track and field was more of like a solitary thing cause me to be like more contemplative while like can we do like some kind of a 16 personalities test but with like whatever high school sport you did in high school? I don't know. I feel like there's something evil within the hearts of like lacrosse players. Rugby players, I think, are most peace in the world. Like everybody that I talked to that did rugby was super laid back and chill. I didn't actually talk to anybody who did lacrosse. Our school did not have a lacrosse club. But I don't know. I feel like something about smacking a tiny ball around with a net is, I don't know. Maybe it's the fear factor too, because I know that ball is actually pretty hard. So yeah, the fear is a factor. Rugby seems like a great get out all the aggression sport. That's the thing though, is like that they weren't even aggressive. They weren't even allowed to be aggressive on the rugby field because it was like a touch rugby. Okay, let me try it this way. I want to try blocking out the hair a little bit so that it doesn't have as much detail while I'm in the sketch zone, but I can just add more detail as it goes on. The boot pokes out a little bit more. It was also a co-ed sport where all other players were girls, but it didn't line up with me transitioning, so we didn't have a moment of now the whole team is girls. Really funny twist on like the really funny twist on like the narrative of like we have to put on the greatest talent show this school has ever seen, except like you have to like win the all girls inter high championship, and you decide, all right, I'm gonna take one for the team. I mean, we have a boys volleyball team. No, I'm gonna do it. I have to do it. It's for the school. It's school spirit. So rugby doesn't injure you as much as American football. Probably yes and probably no. I'm guessing that rugby players have like different types of injury. I know that American football is like kind of like asking to put your head inside of one of those paint can shaker machines for like 3 to 7 years until like you are no long either you retire to become a movie star, or you retire to become a wrestler, or you retire from wrestling to become a football player. I don't remember the pipeline for that one exactly. I do know that rugby, like, you do like lose your teeth sometimes in rugby. No, that's probably not true. Like, rugby looks violent, but like I think the fact that American football, because it has like it's the same reason that like we started getting more deaths in boxing after the gloves were invented, you know, like because they have padding and armor and shit like that. I think it's much more difficult for them to realize when they've been injured, or like when they're injuring somebody else. So comparatively, rugby, or like, you know, any other kind of martial art that doesn't involve armor and such, you do kind of have to pay more attention to how much you're hurting the other guy, and you also have limits on how much you're hurting the other guy because of the fact that you yourself are not armored. You can also retire to set up a cockamamie business scheme or become a podcaster. I think those are the other paths. That's true. I do know that that one dude, what's his nuts? I don't remember his name. One of them. I think it's like either a soon to be retired football player or an ex football player. Start up a clothing line. I think that's also another path if you're good enough at becoming a sports influencer. God, remember how a few weeks ago we had that one sports influencer on, or like that one athletics influencer on blast because he kept like dunking his face into an ice water bath? Also, wait, cockamamie business scheme? Oh, cockamamie. I thought for a solid second I remember you were talking. I thought you were talking about like setting up like some kind of bird business. Like I mistook cockamamie for cockatoo, and I'm like, oh, okay, so they're selling exotic birds. I didn't hear about this. What's the ice bath thing? It's not exactly an ice bath. So what he would do is that, hang on, maybe I can pull it up actually. Hang on, I might be able to find this somewhere. Hang on. Hang on, how I start my morning. Or morning routine meme. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is. What's one that isn't Know Your Meme? Damn it, all of these are listicles. Why are all of these Know Your Meme or listicles? Come on. Okay, here we go. Stop the music. Stop the jazz. Stop the Fallen Angel by Teddy Lloyd. All right, hang on. Well, let me put this guy up on the Jumbotron. So this is the video. A little while back, this video. Oh, hang on. The hand camera is blocking it. A little while back, this video went viral because of just like the sheer, I guess, opulence of some of the stuff involved. Okay, so normal enough. 4 a.m., you're just looking at it all, doing push-ups for some reason, drinking out of the sparkling water. Presumably some kind of meditation?
We're gonna be serious about the Lord's business.
Okay, first ice water bath thing of the day. 5:49 a.m. Alright. The compression garters on the calves. This next part is the one that a lot of people made fun of. It's just like diving. Also, 7:40 a.m. you dive in, and 7:50 you come out. That's like 10 minutes of swimming only. I guess that's a cooldown, I suppose. Eating a banana the not gay way, rubbing the peel on your face. Second ice water bath.
Bro, we gotta go ahead and get in at least 10,000.
Breakfast that you yourself are not even cooking. Another one of these fucking sparkling water. Do you see the kind of weird opulence of it? Like, it's kind of bewitching in a way. I don't know. Usually my morning routine involves just like making myself a sandwich. And then eating it for breakfast. But yeah, that's the ice water bath thing. Why the hell was I talking about this anyway? 3:52 a.m. sparkling water ice bath. I really expected part of this to be watching the sunrise, but this man just skips the sunrise. Second ice water bath. Yeah, that's bewitchingly opulent, but also why would you do that? It's fascinating, right? We were talking about sports. Yes! Yes, that's true. That was a connection. Yeah, no, that guy's apparently a fitness influencer. I don't know. Influencers feels like a very dark path to walk nowadays. I feel they do feel like the modern, like, it's hearing that somebody wants to be an influencer feels a little bit like you're hearing your friend in like the 1940s be like, yeah, I've been really getting into selling people snake oil recently and cheating them for money. Hey, you should plug my Insta. I don't know, what would be the equivalent of like your friend asking you to like join an MLM in the 1940s, or like telling you to plug their Insta in the 1940s? It's a scary path. I do think that they do work hard in their own way. I do think that like it's unbelievably difficult to make money, and it is a little bit easier if you throw away your morals. But like I can't imagine that they take it easy, but at the same time I feel like it has to do something to you. It's almost like becoming like a movie director, but like instead of producing works that are supposed to be meaningful, you're like trying to sell somebody a pill that makes people shit themselves. Like I think that I've heard about like people who are creatives and, you know, like film directors and such, is that they essentially have issues turning it off. Like after they've started becoming like, you know, better at their specific, what do you call it? Like after they've started becoming like more adept at their field, they have issues. Like once you start seeing things as a film director, you stop being able to see them as. It's almost like a sort of enlightenment, but also like you can't like stop seeing it ever. And in that regard, it might be a bit of a curse. Like, you stop being able to see things other than like, oh man, this would be cool if I could shoot it like this. In some regards, it is a sign of mastery, but like, as a streamer, I've also like occasionally experienced like, yo, I should do this and like have it on stream for a couple of seconds, right? And you know, I'm not saying that like being a streamer and being a movie director are equivalent in terms of like responsibility, but they do have similar demands of your cognitive functions to be able to turn the quotidian experiences of your life and, you know, your surroundings, the things that you normally gain power from, to things that you can share with others, that you can like present in a more refined way. And I think that really does wear on you after a while. This is all to say that a lot of people should have creative hobbies, but I think like if you get at the level where like you're actually like starting to become good enough to do it as a job, it kind of becomes a terrible, terrible curse. But it also has some benefits. Instead, in the 40s, for some reason, I don't know much about the 40s, but military contracts and then post-World War II would be like going to West Germany or Japan or something to do colonial administration. The Hollywood film studio collapse was impending around 1948, so they're probably going to the movie business. Going into the movie business in the 1940s is kind of like it's kind of like hitting up your college roommate in 2023 and be like, you know what? We should start an NFT. We should drop an NFT, dog. Do you think that like pre 1940s, putting together a movie studio with your homie was like the equivalent of like starting a podcast with him? Buy some Ed Wood NFTs. I am fascinated by the dynamics of scams. I was actually checking out a book at the library while I was there that was like about different scams. And like I only read a couple pages of it before I put it back, but what I saw was kind of interesting. Like it was talking about like a scam on that dark website Silk Road. Or actually no, it wasn't on Silk Road. It was on a competitor site called like 9 Elevate or something like that. And basically it's kind of a fascinating system. So what it is, it's normally to avoid getting scammed on Silk Road, you have the site's built-in security hold your cash in escrow. So what that means is that you as the seller, or from the vendor perspective, you would have a slower inventory turnaround, but you would be guaranteed to be paid because the person who is paying you has already deposited the cash in the in the escrow system. And likewise, you as the buyer would have some degree of security over getting something because they wouldn't be paid until they delivered. And this is a very inefficient system because even in normal online sales, the inventory turnover, like buying stuff and then having it in your inventory and then waiting for somebody to buy it, that's already an agonizingly long time. And then adding the additional hassle of like the escrow security and everything, people were just like getting really tired of the escrow system, even though it provided them security. So they would have special offers if you were willing to pay the cash directly and skip the escrow system. And so what happened is that a lot of people started buying from non-escrow shops and they would get scammed. I don't know. It's very fascinating how, like, the thing is, like, zero trust systems work, but only as long as people are willing to put up with the hassle involved in them. Special offers on the scam to some extent, basically, yeah. So the scam isn't the special offer. The special offer is that you can just get the inventory directly without having to go through the escrow system. The scam is that there is no inventory. God, yeah. Actually, I like the idea of starting up a comics inventory or a comics company with your homie. The post World War II, the government was giving people money for anything. They didn't know what to do with the stuff. Man, I do not know how to draw ponytails. Also, I'm going to try and pick up the pace a little bit. I feel like I'm not going particularly fast. But yeah, I do love a good story about like how people were scammed. Like, one of my favorite stories is about Victor Lustig, the guy who kept selling gangsters fake money printing machines. And also, like, tried to sell the Eiffel Tower twice, I think. For that one, you can't even be mad at him for it. Like, yeah, so Victor Lustig was a very competent con man, and one of his tricks was that he would show gangsters or, you know, people who wanted to make money quickly, a neat little box where he would put a scrap of paper in the box, he would turn the crank, and the box would spit out like a $20 or like $100 bill. And the clever part was that he sold him this box, and he would say, okay, but bear this in mind, you can only activate the box once every like 8 hours, or once every 12 hours or something. And so what he would do is he would sell the criminals or like, you know, the fraudsters to be the box, and then he would get out of town in like the 18 or so hours that the box needed to cool down. And once they try to do it again, they'd realize that, oh, hey, the box is actually a fake. God. Funny ass guy. And the craziest part is that I don't know if this one's a true story, but I would love it if it was true. There is a story that so it goes that he sold this box to a gangster, and later on, the gangster actually managed to catch up to him and corner him. And the gangster was like, "Finally found you. Oh, you listen. I am in huge trouble. I did not wait enough time, and when I tried to do the paper thing again, the machine didn't work. I think I broke it. Could you sell me another one?" Can you believe like the amount of like the effort to hold in his laughter that he must have had to go through at that very moment? Like, can you imagine? I would have cracked under the pressure. My ass would not have been able to move that second box. God. Looks like the ink is holding up pretty well even after the eraser. Yeah, I know, that guy was brewed no matter what, but like it's really funny that he managed to get him twice. Alright, here is Dukes with the cleaned up line art. This is such a cool trick. I want to do it more often. There's even... I also have like a soft spot for... But yeah, I have a general soft spot for the different like kinds of schemes and gambits and such. Like I have this book called The Book of Swindles, which was originally like this Ming Dynasty era book that, as the name implies, discuss the different kinds of like tricks and... What do you call like scams that were prevalent throughout the period. A lot of them were just like simple stories that were intended to kind of serve as both like a moral story and as a, how do you say, like as a moral story and also as a guide to specific scams. But some of the stories are really, really funny. Like, there was this one story about a guy who was selling... I think his whole thing was that he was selling pigs in the mountain. And he saw this other guy come up. Guide to avoiding or doing said scams. I mean, a guide to avoiding scams... Any guide that discusses, like, the mechanics behind a scam is essentially a guide behind doing that scam. Unfortunately... So it was a little bit of both. But yeah, the scam in question this time around was that a guy was like transporting pigs for sale in a mountain. And this random guy comes up and is like, "Hey man, I would like to take a look at your pig." And the guy's like, "You seem kind of suspicious. I will let you take a look at the pig, but only if I am like right there next to you while you do it." And the guy's like, "Fair is fair. All right, let's do that." So the guy walks up to the pigs. While he is examining the pigs, the guy that walked up knocks over the rest of the pig cages, and all of a sudden the rest of the pigs are on the loose. He grabs the nearest one and runs off. So basically, he ended up getting a pig anyway, but also like he covered his tracks by essentially letting the guy chase after the rest of the pigs on his own. In another story, it talked about how there was this one dude who was like who was very sure of himself, right? Like he was like a badass martial artist. He had some scholarly accomplishments, etc., etc. Maybe not the most humble guy around though. And it talked about how one time he went on a journey with his servant and basically pissed away. He went there allegedly on like business, on like business, right? Like he wanted to start up some kind of enterprise, but he basically squandered most of the money like partying and doing random shit. And so he was like, "All right, we're almost out of money. It's about time to go back. However, I can't go back empty-handed. I'm going to buy my cousin and my sister and, my mom these nice little brass mirrors." He buys 3 of the mirrors. But he still has like a bunch of luggage, right? Like like he's obviously a very well-off guy and he has a lot of like fancy-looking luggage, even though his manservant's like, "Brother, we are about to run out of money." Anyway, they get on a boat and the boatman realizes that these guys are probably loaded. And in the boatman's mind, it's like, "All right, here's what I'm going to do. I will ply these suckers with alcohol, and then while they are resting, I am either going to throw them into the water, or I am just going to take all their stuff and leave them on shore. Whichever one works. Either way, they are very likely going to die." Actually, come to think of it, the pig one isn't really even much of a scam. It's just a guy being a dick. But yeah, very good chance that both of them are going to die. The manservant realizes this, and after he's been plied with alcohol, he goes up to the boatman and is like, "All right, man, I'm gonna level with you. Come here, come take a look at our luggage. You see that? We only have like 3 brass mirrors because this guy was too much of a dipshit and wasted his family's money, and he's just trying to come home without being fully empty-handed." And the boatman's like, "Yikes! I did not know you guys were that broke. My bad, G." And so the boatman lets him go. And I think the manservant also said to the boatman, like, "All right, listen, I'm gonna give you like 2 of the mirrors if you like chill out and don't kill us." And the boatman's like, "You know what? Fair. All right, why not?" What are these little... Are there like little horns up behind Sigma's head? It's more like a little thing behind there. No, those are like tiny horns behind his head. Yeah. Reverse anti-murder scam. Genuinely. What other story do I remember from the book of Sundels? There was a really good one actually. There was a guy that was familiar with a local. Okay, so back in the Ming Dynasty, they had this very important. And this is you might be aware of this actually. I feel like you have some knowledge of history, but there was this very famous exam that you could take to basically become a civil servant. It was like the imperial exam, and it was super important. Thousands of people took it every year. It was such an important and like renowned event that even the British were like, yo, we should do standardized testing. Which is probably why we have to do standardized testing now. So in some regards, the Ming Dynasty kind of screwed us over. My main knowledge of Chinese history is of typing rebellions. I do not know about the scams. About the exams. Nice. Okay, so there was this one tutor who was very famous for helping people pass the exams. So this one guy figured out, wait a minute, I bet that if I dress up as a courier and pretend to know the students of the house through... So what he did is that he pretended to be a courier and delivered news on behalf of this tutor that was supposed to be able to help you pass the exams. I was like, today I've had a very auspicious dream. I dreamed that like it would be like a symbolic thing, like a bear crossing a river or like an eagle snatching a mouse or some shit that was supposed to be connected with like the student that whose house they were visiting. The scammer developed like a fake letter from this tutor telling the family about this auspicious event. And he would go to the different houses of the families and be like, yeah, your teacher asked me to send this to you priority. Said that he had a very auspicious dream about you passing. Also, do you mind if you give me a tip while I'm here? And because, obviously they were so happy about like this auspicious dream, they'd be like, fuck yeah, we'll give you a tip. Here, have 20%. Machine, turn back now. Mods, wave a magnet to your motherboard. Mods, empty a vacuum cleaner into the machine's cooling fans. Hi, Van, how you doing? Okay, and then down here. Doing all right, just chilling. Good to hear. But yeah, that was that's actually a good time for me to cut out the story. Yeah, that's basically it. The scammer would dress as a courier and just deliver these auspicious news and ask for a tip. And the families were, of course, happy to give it to him because they got good news that their family members about to pass these super important exams. So you got yourself a hand cam since I was last year? It's I haven't had a hand cam stream in quite a while. I didn't bust it out very often because I prefer to do digital art. But I don't know. I've been having a good bit of fun doing traditional art recently, so I'm returning to my physical roots more often. I don't know if it would be more immersive to have like the human form be the one piloting these streams. I don't know. It does feel a little bit weird that these hands are just like normal people hands when my little avatar is like right down there. I don't know if that's immersion breaking. I've never really cared about immersion much in the first place. I try not to contradict my own lore too badly, or kind of step on those particular proverbial, not literal toes. I don't know. It's a nice relaxed atmosphere anyway. Glue rice to your hands. That might mess with the ink though. That might be a problem. I did at one point consider getting myself like white gloves and also just like have it like maybe chopping off some hoodie sleeves right around here. Dye your arm hair pink. I don't even have pink hair in my human form. Not to mention my arm hair kind of like cuts off at the wrist actually. Like I have some hair on the back of my hand, but like it's kind of a clean split out really. Strong suggestions, though. I'll bear them in mind. I really need to stop watching art streams at 144p. To be honest, I do feel like a big appeal of my art streams is just me yapping. So I do. Sometimes people do come in and are like, "Oh, I like how the art's coming along," but I think like the main appeal of these is just me talking for a solid 3.5 hours. That's another reason why I'm actually enjoying going out to the library more often again, is that I feel like when I leave the house, I have more topics to talk about. Libraries, let's go. Hey, Michelle. I'm not gonna lie. I do think I've been missing out big time. Like the thing is, I don't have a lot of free time on my hands usually, so I neglect my library because like usually I have my 9 to 5, right, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill out in my house during the weekend. But like now I have a very rare opportunity where I can spend the entire day at the library if I feel like it. Oh hey Cypress, how you doing? How was that Hades like? Did you have fun? I love killing things with explosions. Hell yeah. Wait, hang on. Is that? Oh shoot! I think I might. Wait, no, that's not a smudge, is it? I was working. There's like a little shadow here that I thought was a smudge, but I think it's just something that I did on purpose. We can clean that up with whiteout later. I'm always doing library science studies, so I encourage to go library forever, always. Library science, is that just like the kind of process behind taking behind taking care of a library, or is it more to it than that? I feel like that'll be a pretty fascinating field of study because of how it intersects with like organizing knowledge. With explosions, maybe not. Please do not make explosions at your local library. Or at any library for that matter, local or otherwise. Oh yeah, he also has like a huge tail too. Need to remember that. But yeah, no, I do think that video games have given the layperson a very solid understanding of why, for so much of human history, we were just fucking obsessed with gunpowder. My comment about blowing up the local library had nothing to do with a bomb. God. Your Honor, Your Honor, if we look back at the record, you will clearly see my client never mentioned bombs and libraries in the same sentence. Library info science is the field of like library work, archiving, research, information retrieval, PSAs, constructing books, and municipal information sharing. Sounds really important. I feel like that's definitely like the sort of thing where like if you got really into it, you would find some fascinating threads in between like how information is organized and actually I can't. I don't know much about library science, so I can't see those threads myself. But I'm sure it's the kind of thing where like once you start learning more about it, you start seeing it everywhere. I kind of gave up on my plan of being a writer to go into this because it'll be fulfilling and also it'll let me keep writing as a hobby. That's cool. Okay. Actually, you know what? I feel like I haven't seen Valterra in a while, but I really liked her design. Actually, let me check something real quick. Has she been streaming recently? I feel like I haven't seen her doing stuff very often. Oh, she's doing okay. I think she's writing some kind of Yuri Isekai fiction or something. Which is valid. Yeah, no, it's kind of chic nowadays to take a couple of years off of streaming and start writing regressor Yuri romance. It's like the modern version of backpacking across Europe to find yourself or whatever. I never understood that as a concept either. Like, if you had to like get lost in Syrathan, basically did the opposite. Syrathan, I remember Syrathan does like. I remember Corgi raided into Syrathan a couple of times. It's a lot of Arknight stuff, right? That's what I remember most of the time, at least. God, that actually reminds me of a thought that I had while I was compiling some of these ISO files off of the Internet Archive, is that I have now a lot of pictures of like women in like looking wistfully at a flower field or like smiling dreamily in a very kind of like, how do I put this, in like a very like dreamlike environment. And I realized that like if somebody was like truly devious, they could just like make like graduation or thumbnail level art for like all the active VTubers they could think of. I'm not gonna do that, but I do think it'd be a really funny hater moment to do so. Syrathan currently gets paid by people to stream her beating levels for them in Arknights. Awesome. It's not even cornering the market, because I'm sure like other people will like, you know, I'm sure other people who are more involved in the community or have nicer pictures or more suitable pictures will get selected every now and again. But I do think it'd be very funny to kind of like put that kind of curse on your Ochi. Used to be the Asure writer and then the Nobu Kita writer, and is doing, I think, a master's in disability studies now. Awesome. There's a very funny phrase that is like doing side quests, like doing life side quests, and it's been used to describe like, you know, that a very popular streamer who is like doing a tour of China, I Show Speed, I think. Or like, you know, anybody who's like doing stuff that is way outside of like their field of expertise, but is nevertheless seemingly succeeding at it. That is definitely an ideal lifestyle for me, is just fuck it. Just do everything. Try a little bit of everything. So Nia's kind of going in like this. Get each of your fingers in a different wonderful pie. Wonderful Pie is the Bizarro Universe YouTuber where PewDiePie didn't become racist. Let's see. Okay, so this is kind of gonna go on like this, and then like this. Actually, that reminds me. I recently, as part of my own side quest, I was trying to read up a little bit on the history of like how glam rock became overtaken by grunge rock, because I was interested in it as a topic. And one of the excerpts was from a singer of a band called The Warrants, and he was talking about like the history of a song called Cherry Pie. Hang on, I have a screenshot. I took screenshots of the essay while I was reading it, because there were some real bangers in there. Let me see if I can find the exact quote real quick. Yada, yada, yada. Heavy metal. Rock musicians. It is... Here we go. The conflation of glam music with the constructed inauthentic femininity of pop music and its supposed mutual exclusivity relative to authentic masculine rock music have created a situation where many glam musicians publicly repudiated some of their own glam music. Warrant singer Jenny Lane shares his retrospective feelings regarding the band's best-selling single Cherry Pie. I hate that song. I had no intention of writing that song. The record was done. The record was called Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the Sony executive Don Yenner came up and said, I don't hear a single. You have to give me a fucking single like Love in an Elevator. So that night I wrote Cherry Pie. He looked at it, and all of a sudden the album is called Cherry Pie. I'm doing cherry pie eating contests. The single is Cherry Pie. My legacy is Cherry Pie. Everything about me is Cherry Pie. I'm the Cherry Pie guy. I could shoot myself in the fucking head for writing that song. Now, that is a very unfortunate situation to be in. I do think that, like, as a creative, getting, like, your one hit that is, like, the thing that you are known for the rest of eternity is almost like a death sentence to be able to do anything else. Like, now you have to do that same thing, otherwise people won't be satisfied, and eventually that same thing is gonna not satisfy people anyway. And you're gonna have to keep doing that forever. I expected that to be a thing of a guy going, I hated acting gay as a rocker, but that does suck, honestly. For real. Like, man, it sucks that you are a misogynist, but but that also sucks for you as a creative. Very interesting essay. I always find it really interesting reading essays about, like, how femininity and masculinity are presented in certain contexts. Because I don't have a background in that field of knowledge, so I basically sometimes the implications of certain shit just goes way over my head unless it's like slapping me in the face. So it's nice that some people have taken the time and effort to look into it. It would be really funny if like his whole thing was like, actually Cherry Pie was fine, I just hated wearing makeup on stage. I don't know though. Something about calling yourself the Cherry Pie guy is unbelievably funny to me. Like, this man's despair and pain is very real, and it's an observable phenomenon that has occurred to people throughout the ages. But being like, I hate being the Cherry Pie guy is really throwing off the vibe a little bit. Oh yeah, the best way to do a masterpiece is to do one that doesn't get the credit in the moment, because like that way we remember John Carpenter for things other than Halloween and other than The Thing. We remembered Yoshitoshi Abe mainly for Serial Experiments Lane, but people think about Haibane Renmei and Boogie Pop Phantom too. The vocalist fucking hated the fame after a while for sure. That does seem to be a recurring pattern, and it's also something that was discussed in the essay, which I find really fascinating, is that basically, like, there is no victory in getting big. Oh, hang on. I had a notification. Hey, Jupiter, how you doing? Hello. / shout out at Catastrophe Jupiter. Actually, John Carpenter almost did get trapped in the Halloween bubble for a bit, so maybe it's a yay he got out thing. That one video where he just downs a whole bottle of vodka in an interview is heavy. Oof. Yeah, no, I can imagine that. Yeah, you got to make it to the card art stream this time. How's your stream? Did you have fun? Thank you for stopping by. Very cute little character animations. Thank you. Oh wait, no, you're talking about the game. I'm like, I know, I am very cute and how unbouncy, but then oh, it's about the game. Nice. I'm glad that you had a good time. And of course, the big tail. Cannot forget the big tail. There is something to be said for occasionally. Your cuteness is a given. Aww. You can't see it, but my hand is on my chest. That's so cute. Thank you. But yeah, absolutely something to be said for making a design that's just like a huge woman. Genuinely 10 out of 10. Like, I remember doing that one character art stream where I made, like, this huge lady that was, like, holding, like, an axe coin or something, like an axe money coin. And, like, the whole time I was designing her, I'm like, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. The foot-tall Pabs plush that will totally exist in 2 years, and it will sell more billion bags. I gotta start, like... I gotta start moving the market, or like nudging the invisible hand of the market to make more affordable plushies again. I know with tariffs that's not going to be a very plausible situation, but I need to be able to find a way to make that a reality. It is great to just see a huge woman. Slappable Pabs bag. Oh god. I am gonna need to be prepared because if I ever do get big enough that I can like makeship, or I think makeship have some shady practices going on, so maybe some other company, but where I can basically convince some maybe I should learn it more about fraud so I can like swindle a plushie company to make into like putting my likeness into physical form. Anyway, if I do get big enough to warrant that kind of capability for merchandising, I also need to be prepared for like the unavoidable eventuality that somebody is just going to take their Pabst Flush, dip it in a thing of milk, and just slap it against the nearest solid surface they can find. Devious minds planning to put Pabst Flush in a rice cooker, perhaps walk. Cooking. Honestly... I think there's worse things you could do to a plushie than like putting it in a rice cooker, because like that's all just like starch and hot water. You can probably wash that out pretty easily, but like milk, getting like milk in there is gonna be, you know, I feel like getting milk into any fabric is just like very gross, because I feel like milk and eggs to me are like the two things you must never get on fabric, because otherwise they are going to be very difficult to wash out. Like they are going to like cause some kind of like super mold within hours. I need to make an avatar soon, and I'm debating whether it should be just my Final Fantasy XIV avatar, or if it should be cooler anime me, or just a whole fucking beast. I think a lot of that is going to depend on like how you're going to want to depict yourself, honestly, because I think like the more expressive one would probably be the cool fucking beast, because think about like in Full Metal Alchemist how Alphonse could either be full on that huge metal suit of armor, or he could be in that funny little chibi form. So I think like the beast surprisingly does have more flexibility in terms of like either being silly or being expressive. But I think if it's like the avatar, well, honestly, this is ultimately your choice, but it's an interesting topic, I think. I do think like having a more humanoid form constrains you in some regards, which is why I'm always happy that I elected to be like a funny little bag of rice. Like, I think I dodged some major bullets in deciding to not make myself like generic anime fuckboy number 492. Number 826. And like that's also why I don't whip out the human form very often, because I feel like that's also it just needs to be a PNG for the V colon TBH. Nice. Dodging the self-image bullets so hard. That is also a good reason to not have a humanoid form, is to be like, yeah, no, I'm just like this. I don't need to be worried about like my self-image or anything, because like it's not going to be naturally achievable. Horse form when? Whew. It's a tough ask. A bullet dodge for each grain of rice. Horse form pabs. Feed bag of oats with ears. I do think that is a fascinating perspective, and I do honestly think, speaking of feedbacks, I do think that my horse form would probably just like have a feedback on its head 24/7. Because if I was a horse, right, and I understood that there was like a way for me to be eating 24/7 at my own convenience, I do think I would go for that. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'd be able to resist the temptation of the feedback. Like that thing, I feel like feedbacks for horses would be like being able to would be like having boobs that are big enough that you could like prop your phone on top of them, and so you could just like watch YouTube shorts or whatever the fuck while lying down permanently, and just have that propped on your chest while you're just like eating a bag of chips. You know, it's like an ultimate backslide into a sort of potent hedonism. Okay, feedback talk. I fuck with it. God. It would kind of muffle my voice a lot too, wouldn't it? Tying a bunch of grapes to a horn and snacking off them. Enrichment. God. That would honestly be kind of awesome. Shan't lie. Like, just being able to, like... Honestly, yeah, like, if you have, like, one of those, like, Oni type horns, where it's, like, one big horn just, like, protruding out of your forehead, you could probably just, like, hang a Slim Jim off of that thing. Or, like... I don't know, like, some kind of, like, tough-to-eat food, like one of those, taffy snacks, right? And just, like, keep suckling on that while you lie down. I feel like I could have used a much better word than suckling. Suckling gives the wrong kind of image, I think. Like those hats with the cup holders? Exactly! I would live for grapes on a horn type hedonism. Hedonism in general? I could understand that. I think I was weaned off of hedonism a little bit early in my life. I think I realized I would never be able to like truly fuck with hedonism, because when I was young, I remember I would like go to a birthday party and I would like eat a slice of cake and I'd be like, "Yo, this cake is delicious," and then I'd take a sip of cola and I'd be like, "Yo, this cola is delicious," but then I would try to like take a sip of cola and right after eating a bite of cake, I'd be like, "Wait. No, the cake doesn't taste sweet anymore. What the fuck?" I think my taste buds just aren't locked in enough to be like food hedonistic. But yeah, I'm definitely the kind of person that enjoys stuff more if it's like a little bit at a time. Suckling is somewhat appropriate considering how hedonistic the vibe is. You know what? That's fair. But you know, I can absolutely... I respect the hell out of people who can like find ways to like combine several pleasures into one. Like, I have a very difficult time doing that. I don't know. Is suckling the kind of like correct word mouthfeel for like a hedonistic vibe? I have my doubts, frankly. Perhaps reservations, but then again, I have just established that I'm not particularly adept when it comes to the field of hedonism. Slurping that thing. Food hedonism is the path to many riches, but not quite for all. Unfortunately, fucking expensive. That's true. Hedonism is a celebration of life instead of a nihilistic fast track to death. I could see that. You know what? That's fair. Actually, you know what? I have been, perhaps not the perfect world, but at the same time, newborn babies are greedy. Yeah. I thought that said perfect world, and I'm like, you know what? I guess in the perfect world, babies would be a little bit less greedy, perhaps. But I think you meant like in terms of like with regards to suckling, and I have to agree. But yeah, right. I was actually gonna say, thanks to my buddy Leov, I started watching those Chikuwa shorts. And there's this one character who like drinks alcohol and like eats like super good food, and like all of his on-screen appearances are either him working his ass off or drinking alcohol and eating good food. And after he does each of these things, he like makes this very specific face, and he goes like, ah. And like honestly, that's kind of the vibe. I rock with that. Perfect world toddler. Mother, I respect that you need your time. I shan't grab at your chest. Damn, that perfect world toddler is polite as hell. Okay, yeah, no, I need to... Where is my whiteout? Did I not take it out of my pencil case? Oh, here it is. God, I use the whiteout of the library sometimes, and I have to be very discreet with it because obviously it makes a lot of noise, you know, just clacking it around like that. So I try to be discreet with it. I try to do a sort of perfect world toddler would grow up to be such a nice person, genuinely. Right? Like, I feel like perfect world toddlers gotta, you know, even if they never manage to make it far in life, I do think that their kindness will have a lot of meaning to the people around them. But yeah, I try to be super discreet with a whiteout when I'm at the library. I'll do like a quick shake, like wata. like two quick shakes so that I don't disturb everybody else's peace. Sometimes I worry that I'm too self-conscious about like not disturbing other people's peace. But I do think it leads me to some very funny situations, so I can't be particularly mad at self for that little character flaw. Started drawing a Sona idea and I'm honestly cooking suddenly. Unfortunately, I am drawing her on what I just realized is a legal document, so I will have to do a second pass at it. I wish I could say that I can't relate, but I've been there. I'm trying to erase my mistakes, but the clapping of the whiteout keeps alerting the librarians. I thought you meant trying to erase your... For a second, I do also have to do this occasionally to like make the whiteout drive faster. When you said I'm trying to erase my mistakes, but the clapping of the whiteout, for a second I thought I am trying to erase my mistakes was like a segue into like a sort of kill the past kind of sentiment. Like I'm trying to erase my mistakes, but then who would I be? I feel like the Kill the Past series and the Metal Gear series have like almost opposite takes on the idea of like maybe the use and the purpose of the past, because like in Metal Gear, right, I remember that there was like a thing where Snake was like, don't regret the past, learn from it. And conversely, in Kill the Past, the whole theme is that you can only move on once you've eradicated your previous experiences, where you're trying to escape that thing, and by escaping it, you are becoming a stronger, better person. I don't know, it's very fascinating. I do think a funny conclusion to this is that I start running out of like VTubers that are active that I know, so I just start drawing graduated VTubers. I don't know. Would that be I don't know. I do know that some VTubers are like, for their graduated sonas, are like, do not remember them, do not worry about them. This is who I am in the present. You don't need to recall the past. And others are like, yeah, you know what? I do kind of miss that guy a little bit. I guess it does depend on like the experience with graduating and such. Feels bad, man. God. Do you reckon that it's maybe how like artists don't like looking at their old sketches anymore? Like you'll show an artist a picture of like their grade school sketchbook and they'll be like, no, stop, it's so embarrassing. It's like their quote unquote dark history or whatever. I always thought that was very funny. I didn't keep a whole lot of my old sketchbooks, but that was mostly out of like a sense that they wouldn't be, that I wouldn't really return to them very frequently, rather than a sense of like resentment or anything like that. Meanwhile, their art from even back then is still pretty good, or cursed as hell. Curse might not be the right word to use, but I do agree that occasionally it can be a little questionable. I remember that for a while during the pandemic, I almost got sucked into that kind of like very Tumblr poetry kind of thing, where it's like very dramatic expressions of your feelings. But then like I kind of like had a family member look at it and are like, is this really how you feel? And I kind of like had to self-assess for a second. I'm like, am I aggrandizing those feelings a little too much? I think writing that poetry did help me, but I didn't think in the end it wasn't just it was not my path. My really early art is really weird because it was 50% trying to do porn and 50% trying to draw Ben 10 and Mega Man. This has shaped me weirdly. Yeah, I'll bet. Is this really your hard type moment? I do think it is really funny that they were like, is this really your heart? Are you telling me you are not on some gangster shit? God. I am glad that they walked me through that though. I think more so than the poetry, hearing that and hearing that they thought that I was like normally locked in enough to not express myself like that, I think that's what I really needed. It is not my path. This is not for me. Ah! Oh, thank God. I thought I crinkled the paper for a second. Gotta be careful. Long, slow strokes of the eraser. No, there was a strict line between the two. Don't know if that makes it weirder. You found your beautiful rice path. Yeah, I think rather than kind of mulling over the reasons that I have to be sad or be forlorn, I think I am definitely the kind of person who draws more strength from having more things to be happy about. I do think that there are people who gain strength from that kind of like introspective expression, but I think like doing vent art and such, I do think that that is a very valuable kind of outlet for a lot of people. But it's not for me. Also, you might notice that I'm not using the markers as much this time around. Erase, 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 rip. And that, Your Honor, is why I just had to commit $8,000 worth of property damage. Genuinely, I think if I ripped one of these, especially because like I worked so hard to get these the information on the flashcards on the reverse side down so accurately, I think if I ripped one of these, I really would do some Kiryu Beast style type shit. The oldest song of mine that I can still enjoy is probably 7 or 8 years old. Anything before then I either forgot or want to repurpose or just scrap entirely. That's fair. I think I do still have like a lot of art from when I was still first learning how to use a tablet pen, and I don't know if it's like me just not really. I don't know if I'm keeping it around for sentimental reasons. I'm definitely not going to show it to anybody. Probably, I don't think I have a reason to show it at any time soon. But I don't think I'm probably not going to show it to anybody ever. But I do think more so than like my sentimentality or anything, it's just like my habit as a data hoarder. That is keeping me from obliterating it. It is kind of nice to know that like no matter what you do, I don't know, there's two responses I feel to like seeing your own progress in your field of expertise, and one is like, "Aw, I've come so far," and the other one's like, "Oh man, I used to be that far back." Endlessly funny, to be quite honest. Oh yeah, I should probably zoom in on these two now that they're basically done. Sometimes it's both at once. True. Actually, hang on. I do want to do some additional hatching on Sigma suit. Also, 8 years sounds like a pretty long time to be proud of. That's true. Even if you're not necessarily a fan of the artist you were back then, I think you should be a fan of how long you've been working at it. I should get back into trying to learn about music more soon. I still have to fulfill that promise. Although maybe before that I need to start working on that Tool Takeover stream. That promise has been outstanding for almost a year now. Or actually, no, more than a year, because God, has it already been a year since since I stopped being a... since I stopped being a... Franchisee isn't the right word. Affiliate! A whole year since I've renounced being an affiliate. That's crazy. I have not missed those ad breaks, let me tell you what. Actually, a really funny thing happened. I'm still trying to make tweaks to make it better, but the bones of the song I still enjoy, and that's what matters. Awesome. Where's the rest of her foot? I think... I think in my innocence, I missed part of the foot here. My bad. God. But yeah, I haven't forgotten promises from that affiliate stream. They are still very much on the docket. Okay, 005. I am also very glad that it seems like the issue with the ink from last time hasn't come back. I remember I was freaking out really badly when that happened. So I'm glad that using the fountain pen, the incident hasn't reoccurred. It is really funny. I will say that as a streamer, it is a little bit funny when I realize that I outlast like certain larger name talents. Like I'll see like some people who were active for like less time than me put together and had like 5 million times higher the audience and they all have fallen off the face of the earth, but I remain. This must be what it was like to be like a cockroach during the Cambrian explosion. Too rare to live and too weird to die. I'm also going to try and rework the mouth a little bit. You are a true shark, that's right. I don't know if that might be insensitive given what's happening in like a couple of days. Yakuza like a shark. It is nice seeing you still here. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever gonna... I don't know what kind of life event would cause me to stop streaming, but it hasn't happened yet, at least. I'm grateful for that. Too weird to die. Hell yeah, brother. Hashtag freaks forever. You know it, sister. God, yeah, no. I do remember very clear. I think, like, obviously, everybody. We've had like a lot of different types of graduation announcements recently, which is not great. But I do think, like, out of everybody's announcements, I do think like Gura's probably hit me the hardest, because I was like, the whole time I was like sitting back seeing, like, you know, Ame graduated, Fauna graduated, Mume graduated, and like the whole time I'm like leaning back and being like, I'm sure it can't be that bad. And then I'm hearing like Gura graduated, and I'm like, shit, it's people dying out here that have never died before. I'm not sure if I should call this like a recession indicator or anything, but I do think it's not a good omen. It is fascinating. In that glam rock essay I was talking about earlier, I do remember that one of the things that they were talking about is that, like, glam rock was very kind of emblematic of the excess that occurred during the 80s. And that's a fascinating perspective. And it also leads me to wonder that, like, is that also maybe why, you know, being a VTuber isn't the same kind of thing that it used to be? Probably not, but it is fascinating to see the parallels, because, like, very recently, Matara Khan announced that she would also be, she also parted ways with V Shoujo, or, you know, in both ways, either way around. Like, I think it was like V Shoujo didn't renew her contract or something. And, you know, she was discussing, like, it's very interesting, because, like, she was also discussing how she liked having a slightly smaller audience. Like, she, you know, I think like, she's relatively speaking very well known, but, like, she's like, you know, I'm not on the level of Iron Mouse. I'm not on the level of, like, she named another streamer. I don't remember who. But I did kind of, like, feel the difference in that. Like, for example, I saw that there were only like 400 people tuned into her stream, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, yeah, no, she is actually on the smaller scale. Wouldn't a recession indicator be like if they wanted to quit but couldn't because of the lack of security would doom them? I say, knowing this is absolutely a recession. Jesus. God, it's really rough out here, huh? This really ain't a quitting economy. Okay, I need to stop doing stuff here. Glam rock was absolutely that, and the rise or explosion of grunge was the direct reaction of the masses realizing how bullshit that was. They were fed up with it, and that energy got subsequently consumed by the music industry as they threw away their hairspray and toys. Yeah, hang on. I have another excerpt from that essay that I think is very appropriate for this section. Hang on. It was like a quote. Hang on. Producer Steve Albini explains how the heavy metal tradition always had a kind of emphasis on virtuosity or on vulgar exhibitionist musical tendencies. There was always a kind of flamboyance, a kind of camp element to heavy metal, and the grunge bands were all much more straightforward in their presentation. There wasn't a fireworks show, there wasn't a wall of Marshall amplifiers, there wasn't a massive drum kit, and in a lot of cases the musicianship was not necessarily rudimentary is the wrong way to put it, it was functional musicianship. I think that's a very fascinating reaction to... It's a very fascinating kind of pendulum swing, really. I don't know, I love learning about stuff like this. You can quit when you're dead. To us, most agencies. I don't know. There have been some crazy ass. There have been a few people who have like stuck through it thick and thin. Let's see. What the hell was I doing again? Right, I needed to find another reference picture. Oh, you know, wait, actually, I haven't drawn Jupiter yet. I'm gonna draw Jupiter. At least I don't think I've drawn Jupiter. I might have drawn them. You were doing art. Thanks, Chief. Ooh, actually, hang on. This one might be good. Or maybe... You know what? I'm gonna go for it. I have some courage. I'm gonna have courage and go for it. Actually, hang on. Let me do a quick check here. Okay, facing right, sort of facing left, facing right, sort of facing left, but eyes pointing to the right. I'm trying to make it so that they're all not just like facing a specific direction. And I think I've made a good variety in the poses and gestures. But actually, hang on. I might as well go back and fix the mouth on Duke while I'm at it. Also, that nostril's a little bit too wide. I remember somebody once posted a picture of like an anteater head on, and it was like looking right down the barrels of that thing. It was very endearing. Wait, no, hang on. 1, 2, 11, 12, 13. Gotta put this here. Starting out the working mat. Perfect. Okay, what was I doing? Right. I need to stop saying what was I doing. I think eventually if I say it enough, it's gonna concern people. I try not to be a forgetful person, but I do occasionally get lost in the middle of what I was doing. I think that's especially true during art streams because I do have a tendency to go on the Yap Grand Tour 3000. I have a tendency to go on to burning Yap. Attending Yapapalooza. It is so important to me that the phrase yap has become so prevalent in the digital vernacular because of the fact that I feel like I'm just saying that I'm talking is not sufficient to describe it, or like saying that because like saying like it's chit chat is a little bit reductive, and saying that I'm talking just makes it feel like I'm not really communicating anything. Yapping has like that perfect connotation of like non-hostile, but ultimately still not fairly substantive talking. Although I do think we've covered some ground on some pretty fun topics today. The mechanics of swindles, the kind of dynamics in the market or wider culture that kind of precipitated the existence of glam rock. It's very fun. Talking, rambling, yapping, waffling. Rambling is probably my favorite one out of those. I think rambling is probably like the best descriptor for what I do. Because I feel like yapping is almost more like changing topics a lot faster than rambling does. Like rambling is like you talk on and on about one thing. Although I suppose waffling is to some extent that as well. So yeah, I guess what I'm doing is rambling. Good for me. Okay, so then this is gonna kind of go in. Jupiter's code is so cool. Waffling has both a professionalism and an incompetence to it. I think that's a very good way to describe it, because I feel like to waffle on about something, you do kind of like have to get lost in the weeds, and you can't really do that without having a degree of competence or knowledge of that field. However, it's still ultimately not particularly valuable. I do think, however, there is something that is tremendously pleasant about discussing something even though you already know the answers, because I think that's what like waffling is to me, right? Is just talking on about a subject that you kind of already know the answers to, not really trying to produce anything new from it but you're still talking at length about it. Although I guess you could say that for a lot of different descriptors for these, but I think that's the main thing about waffling to me, and I really enjoy that, because I think it's almost like when dogs like, or no, I think that's a good fine simile. It's like when dogs kind of like do that play bow at each other, you know. It's like saying like, yeah, I'm also having fun here. I also know what you're talking about. I think to me that's a very valuable experience, because like in my day-to-day life, I have a deficit of people who I can talk about these nerdy things with. So I think it is a lot of fun to just waffle on about your, you know, about VTubers, about like whatever thing you're interested in. Waffling is talking without saying anything, word salad, etc. Okay, and then this is gonna kind of come up like this. Something that I really like about Jupiter's model is how intelligent their eyes look. Like I don't know how to put it. Like I think it's because their hair color and their eye color is fairly dark, so it all comes together to look like a fairly, I don't know. Jupiter looks locked in. Art does imitate life in a lot of regards. I also want to add Jupiter's funny planet thing. All right. Oh yeah, now the whiteout should be drawing on Dukes, and I can get back to that real quick. There we go. I feel like going honk shoo me me me. Have you been having a little fun today? I've never had enough alcohol to ever be like, you know, I'm feeling sleepy. I feel like the kind of like sleep, or I don't know actually. Like sometimes especially back when it was colder outside, I do feel like I went outside for like a few seconds and I would feel like when I came back inside, I felt like I would have to nap or else I would not be able to function for the rest of the day. But let me tell you, whenever I took a nap after that experience, it felt awesome. It happens to me sometimes, but not always. It's interesting. Huh. I wonder if it has something to do with like whether you ate or something beforehand or not. Like maybe there's some way that you could like reliably induce it. Right now, I only had very little to drink. It's one of those buzzes. Oh, nice. Okay, and then this is gonna come in like this. Oh yeah. While I was at the library, I took a look at a book of hairstyles in like some regions of Europe and the pre-American world. And the thing that I've gathered, I'm only a few pages in, but a lot of it has been devoted to like Egyptian era hairstyles, and some of these guys had that shit on. Like one of the things that was noted is that some of the reliefs that they found, or like some of the items where they found, were like these fake beards that were attached to the guy's head with like they were literally like fake beards that you hung over your ears, and like the bands were occasionally like made of gold or silver or something, and I'm like, damn, that sounds sick as hell. I feel like that's like the natural evolution to like say you know those like grills that some people have. I feel like that would be the evolution to a grill, is just like getting yourself like a fake a fake beard, but like having the beard strap be like super glamorous. I don't think a lot about jewelry. I'm not a big jewelry guy. I do think, however, we do need some more outrageous fashion statements more recently. Like, I think we are kind of in a kind of crisis for fashion and everything else because of the ardent desire to not be cringe. Like, I feel like the desire to not be cringe is beating out a lot of the normal green goblin mask voices that let fashion people cook. This isn't always true, though. Like, I do. There are some brave soldiers in the trenches who are still fighting the good fight of wearing the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen and somehow still pulling it off. It's rough out there, though. Like nowadays, it's not enough to like have a competent product. You also need to be like completely aware and like actively trying to avoid like doing anything that would make you a laughing stock. And it's so easy to do that because like who knows what people find funny nowadays. At least that's what I imagine most marketing executives think. Most marketing executives think. In reality, I don't think it's that hard to not be ridiculous. But who knows? They might have different circumstances or different values of ridiculous than mine. Let fashion people cook, right? The other day, I did see this person who was modeling outfits based on like the Straw Hat Pirates, and it was some of the most unbelievably awesome costuming I had ever seen. Or I don't know if it's costuming, outfit arrangement. They had very good fashion sense. I assume part of fashion right now is cheapness. That is true as well. And that's not going to get any better with the tariffs. Did you see that Temu and Shein are raising prices? This is like 9/11 for people whose whole personality is like trying to find good deals online. Well, I say good deals. Cheap deals, I suppose, is a better term. From what I've seen, nothing from Temu or Shein is a good deal. It's more so a Faustinian bargain where you get what you wanted at a reasonable price and then have to pay with something more valuable than money. Yeah, no, that was to me the biggest sign that this tarot thing is going to be serious shit is the fact that Shein and Temu are like not going to be able to retain like their insanely cheap prices. I don't even rock with those companies, and I still know that that's fucked. Well, presumably it's not a problem for me because I live in Canada. I could probably still just get their random cheap crap off of their website if I really wanted, but I don't want that. Fuck fast fashion forever and always, but that's wild. Yep. Jupiter's coat had pockets, didn't it? No, it did not. Alright, that should be good for this one, for the inking. We need to move on to the next one. We are literally a tenth of the way through. We're gonna need quite a few of these streams. I really gotta open fucking... Not suggestion. Well, no, it is suggestions. I gotta start taking requests soon. 2032, when dressing like a sexy fisherman is in fashion. Paps rejecting the $1 festival booty shorts or whatever they're selling. The $1 festival booty shorts is crazy. Oh, actually, I haven't drawn Corgi yet. I should draw Corgi. I hope he's having fun in Japan. Come to think of it, now's about the time when Japan would start to be getting really humid. Well, maybe that's not true for the area that they live in. Oh, this one looks fun. 2032, when dressing like a sexy fisherman is in fashion. I don't want to think about the implication that might be because, like, the oceans are rising. I will say, though, fisherman sweaters do kind of go hard as fuck for no reason. Like, you're telling me you have to go out at like 4 a.m. every morning to catch the food you eat, and you're still dressed tough as hell? For what purpose? No way they were doing that to stay safe in the water. No way that was just for water safety purposes. Actually, hang on. This would be more like... this. There'd be kind of like a strange foreshortening because of the angle here. Okay, and this will go like this. When it comes to drip or drown, a fisherman had no choice but to have that shit on. Fire! Actually, I guess their arms would be a little bit more relaxed. Okay, and then over here. I do really still really like Corgi's big ass Kingdom Hearts ass shoes. I remember Cottagecore leaves the cottage and goes down to the lake in flared cargo shorts with lace. Whew, that is... Honestly, I could kind of see that. Like, if you make them like cargo shorts, but like with... You know how like some cargo shorts have like... You know how like Luffy's shorts are, where they have like a little bit of like ruffled fur at the bottom? Not even ruffled fur. It's like just like frayed fabric. If you could replace frayed fabric or like overlap it with lace, I think that would be really creative. I think you could really do something with that. Now I'm imagining like some kind of like fisherman core that was created as like a response to the cottagecore ideal. You know, because right now we are kind of seeing a big like a bit that big trend of like, you know, quote unquote trad content. So I think like maybe if we like move to fishermen, like the like fishermen who have like the reality, you know, maybe as a response to that movement. You know, maybe that description will be like, what if cottagecore went to the lake and drowned? What if cottagecore got affiliated? Affiliated. I'm not even familiar with that particular Shakespeare story, so maybe I shouldn't be talking all that shit. It is a nice change of pace that Corgi's proportions are so like wide and chunky. Thanks to all the like more feminine poses that I've been doing. It's been a while since I've gotten to draw somebody that's shaped like a refrigerator, and it's so awesome. I did say earlier that I just like drawing big women sometimes. I think that also includes like the fact that they're built like refrigerators. Also, I think I just like saying somebody is built like a refrigerator. Very fun way to describe somebody. Not necessarily positive or negative. Very kind of a neutral description, I feel. Actually, you know what? More so than Kingdom Hearts, Corgi's outfit reminds me a little bit of The World Ends With You. That was a crazy-ass game that I played entirely on a mobile platform. I could probably play it on DS now if I wanted, but, like, I kind of love my DS's touchscreen a little bit too much to play that game. I literally saw it get described as a touchscreen destroyer back in the day. So maybe not my DS. I've been looking to get into like a second-hand DS or something though. Like maybe finally upgrade to a 3DS. I've been using my poor old 2DS. No, not the 2DS. My poor old DSi since like 2013. Since Anne of Green Gables is getting reanimated, what classic do you think would be cool or funny to see return? Watership Down, no question. We need to start traumatizing children again. Occasionally I get reminded that Neo TWEWY came and went. I should play Neo TWEWY, actually. From everything that I gathered, Neo TWEWY wasn't even like offensive as a sequel. It was just I think like the moment, like the hype cycle for it didn't take. Gotta head out early. Thanks for the stream. Take care. You too. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Feels weird that it is a Tuesday evening, actually. I feel like I've gotten worse at keeping track of time. Or keeping track of the days. But yeah, it is really funny that I was obsessed with The World Ends With You as a video game. Like, I remember hearing about it as a child and, like, seeing the art for it and being, like, mesmerized by it because the art was so unique and snappy and cool looking. And I was, like, 10 at the time. And I was like, oh, man, but there's no way I'm going to be able to play it on the DS. And, like, also the gameplay scared me because I remember that it was, like, surprisingly complicated. Sure doesn't feel like a Tuesday, right? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I remember that the gameplay loop for the DS version of The World Ends With You was surprisingly complicated. Like, you have to keep track of, like, stuff in both screens at the same time. And, like, you have to input commands for, like, one screen while also doing stuff on the other one. So I think the iPhones, or, like, the mobile ports simplification was, in that regard, very beneficial for me, who is not very good at maintaining track of multiple things like that. But yeah, it does not feel like a Tuesday at all. Actually, you know what? While I'm gathering suggestions or recommendations for VTubers to draw next time, you know what VTuber I should get a reference of and draw? That one VTuber that was called like Hazard Hornet or something. Speaking of The World Ends With You fashion, the game world paying attention to fashion in the way it did. That is fun, actually. I did also remember that was a thing, and I do also very much remember ignoring it completely because I was just like... obsessed with like the Pokemon growth stats of my pins. I was like trying to like maximize the EVs on my pins and shit. But yeah, no, very unique mechanics in a game. Very interesting ways that like everything interacted. It sadly did not feel like super meaningful. Like I feel like it probably could have made a difference, but if it did, I probably wasn't noticing. I don't know. I feel like it's very difficult to integrate mechanics deeply because either you have to like either it's oblique enough that like it kind of turns off the player and you risk losing the player because like the this is kind of like what happens in like Dwarf Fortress, for example, right? Where like Dwarf Fortress is absolutely not a game for everybody. It's a game for like sickos who love like the idea of having life or death battles with like the nearest neighboring town over like the price of COD. And because of that, it's very unapologetically a deep and complex game. Conversely, like TWEWY had some fascinating ideas for like how the themes of the game in terms of like the mimesis mechanics, the idea of like fashion and like trends and the way that that intersected with the game world. It had like a lot of mechanics built into it, but I think like in an effort to make sure that they wouldn't interfere with like the normal gameplay, they kind of made too much of an effort to not let them stand out too much. So what you have is like this unbelievably complex and mechanically deep element of the game that most players will maybe not super deeply interact with, like me. Although that might just be a skill issue. Oh, that line isn't supposed to go there. Actually, let me see if I can get Hazard Hornet's reference right now, actually. Or actually, hang on. We've gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 done. I think we're good with 6, actually. Let's just clean these 2 up and call it a night. Okay, the 500 pen. Here we go. And actually, let's just correct this thing on the hair real quick. Okay, very tenderly just adding the... Or actually, I guess we should add the... shading to a couple of these places. It's at times like these where I occasionally appreciate that I should have probably gotten glasses a long, long time ago. Like, sometimes my eyes will have trouble focusing on certain details, and I'll be like, oh shit. Which could mean nothing. I don't know. I don't think I'd ever get used to glasses if I started wearing them. That seems pretty good. Well, actually, no, we need a little bit extra down here. Okay, we're actually on the shirt, too, come to think of it. That's good. Alright. We'll give Corgi a couple of extra seconds to dry off and zoom in on this one. Ta-da! I love having this mechanic. I love having this new little element to the stream. Like I said, this is why the fixed armature is so much better than the other one. Also, I would like to point out just how much we've already depleted the eraser, like especially for like from this angle. I feel like it shows that we've already taken quite a big chunk out of it. Also, I gotta hurry up because I do want to raid into Jay before she wraps up for the night. I do want to correct the bone on the mouth thing. I think rather than like that mischievous grin, I think a cool smirk would, or like, not even smirking or anything, but rather a different expression would suit better. Corgi said looks really nice here, right? I'm also very happy with it. Actually, I should add some more detail down here. There we go. That looks pretty punky. Alright. And moving this up. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Alright, let's do a quick spread of the ones that we completed for today. Okay, we have the Axe Ranger gang. And we have 3 VTubers, 2 of which are not particularly active as of right now. But I think we've done good work today. Alright. Let's go say hi to Jay, yeah? Not this one. There we go. Yeah, Jay is playing Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, featuring a special guest. Alright. We'll raid into their stream, into their stream, and yeah, take care out there. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you all later. Bye.